I'm pretty sure we're probably live, even though it took a minute there.
Yeah.
So good evening, everyone. It is Tuesday, July 30th. I cannot believe that it's almost August. I feel like this summer, where did it go? Because it's gone. It's unreal. But here we are. It is another Tuesday night. It is our live discussion. We'll be discussing Louise Erdrich's The Roundhouse. Oh, I like your cover. Oh, I love that cover.
Do you want this?
No, I have one.
Okay.
This is my copy.
Okay.
It's very nice, though.
Yeah, thanks.
Plus, mine has the deckled edges, which, by the way, okay, so before we get into this discussion, this is ridiculous. But anyways, if you're new here, this is often how it runs. We digress a lot. So Laura does not like deckled edges. I really do like deckled edges. I've never had an issue with deckled edges before until I started reading this book. And I was like, I cannot turn the effing page. Like, why can I not? And it was really I gotta tell you, it was really bothering me. But I'm like, I don't really want to tell anybody because I have been defending deckled edges for like long time, a very long time. But anywho, no, I'll keep my copy. And I was realizing too, like, so this is one of my, so back it up. So in July, we are reading The Roundhouse because July is my birthday month.
That's
and
right.
Laura and I, for our birthday months, we always pick the books. So I had picked this book because Louise Erdrich is an autobi author for me. I first read her back when I was in college for my undergraduate and had a women's lit class, which I didn't do very well in, by the way, because I never really went to class. Ask Beth Ann. She was in that class with me. But we read her, and it was the only book that I read the whole book. I read the whole book. I didn't read much else in that class, which is probably why I didn't do very well. But
yeah, that could be.
Which is hilarious because, I mean, anyway, I didn't really like the teacher. I didn't really like what we were reading. But here we are. Anywho, we read Love Medicine, and I loved it. And there's a couple of others that follow the same characters. And so she's an autobi. I was just thinking today, am I even saying the name right? Because, okay, so I always say Erdrich, but what if it's just Erdrich? And I was like, oh, I have no idea. So I apologize if anyone knows what the proper pronunciation is. Thank you in the comments if you leave me like how to say it, because I feel really silly, like thinking, I don't know if I'm saying this right. But anywho, that's what we're going to discuss tonight is The Roundhouse. A very depressing read, I would say. It's one of the main triggers that I have for books is rape. And this book is all about it. So
I know. I was talking to my mom today, and she said, "What are you doing tonight? You have book club, or is it something else?" I said, "No, it's book club tonight." What are you reading? Oh, I'm reading Louise Erdrich. And so what's it about? I'm like, it's about rape, which is actually kind of funny because Dani hates reading about rape, and she picked it. My mom just was like, "Oh my god," we're both kind of laughing, like, go figure,
Yeah. And
it's not funny, but it is funny.
It's not funny, haha, but it's funny, like, really, like, this is gonna happen to me. But here's the difference. So I very much enjoyed this book, much the same as I have enjoyed her other books. Not enjoyed in the sense like, oh, it was fit, just it was a very good read, compelling, great storytelling, very much her style. The difference for me is when in books, when the assault is described in such detail and it's so horrific, and I'm thinking, you chose to do that. And I get that sometimes it's important to show how deplorable a person is, but for me, like, I don't want to read about it. Now in this, it It's not something I like to read about, but at least it didn't give like detail, and it didn't like keep like throwing it in your face. And so it happened. We get a, account of what happened, and the rest is all the thereafter and why, and the character development and the grieving and the, so it's much different. It's much different than, I've read other books where it's like every little bit of detail, like it's just, it turns my stomach and it makes me upset, and I just don't. And I know that it happens in the world. I know that it happens. It's happening right now. Like I get it, but I don't want to read about it in a book for, like I read for pleasure. I don't need to be reading about that. So anywho, that's in my head. That's how I get past it. But anywho, before we really dive into our discussion, as always, we want to remind everybody what we'll be reading next month. So for the month of August, we have The Summer People by Shirley Jackson. And you should all be pretty excited because it is a short story. Not that there won't be enough to talk about, because if you've ever read anything by Shirley Jackson, there is worlds to talk about with her writing. So we will be reading The Summer People by Shirley Jackson. Now, if you might not find this on its own, it might be part of an anthology where there are several short stories. I myself am going to be listening to it. I found a file on YouTube, so that's how I will be listening to it. So, just search around, and there may be different ways of which you find that. Kindle Unlimited may have it. I'm not sure. I don't have that. Just kind of search around and do what you can. But that will be our August read. And then if you are interested in discussing that with us, we will be having our live discussion on Tuesday, August 27th. So that's Tuesday, August 27th at 8 p.m. Central Time. So that will be for The Summer People.
I will say, too, when I looked at that short story at the library, so I'm in Milwaukee County, and which I know has like 30 different libraries to choose from. I get it. But just at my local library, there were, I think, 5 or 6 different physical collections that had the story in it. Some just her, some like a collection of certain kinds of tales or whatever. So it should be fairly easy to get your hands on from the library system if you want to read a physical copy. It should be easily somewhere,
Yep. Very good. Cool. Okay. So that will be for August. And then if you're wondering, if you're like, I'm not really into short stories, I'll skip that month. You will like to join us next week, Tuesday, in either our new product release or our reading sprints. We'll share September picks, and then that'll go up on a poll on our community tab. So you'll be able to vote on that next week. And then that'll be summer books, which I don't think are completely decided yet. So be aware of that coming up. Okay, so let's jump back in. Before we start, let's just see. Oh, Cool Gamer's here. Hello.
Hi.
Hello. Nice to see you. And let's jump into some questions here. Sure I didn't forget anything. I think, yeah, we're good. Okay.
Well, so, before we get started, actually, since this is your birthday pick, how was your birthday? What did you do?
Oh, I didn't do anything.
Yay!
I can remember. I think my parents came. I don't think that was my birthday. No, it was like the weekend before. I think my birthday was on a Monday this year.
Yeah, it was. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was on a Monday. Mm-hmm. And my parents came, I think, on Sunday or Saturday. I don't remember. Like, as if it was like a year ago. I can't remember anything anymore. But they came. It was very nice. My mom gave me some gifts. I got a really cute crossover bag that I wanted that has like a bunch of like Disney ears on it. It's really cute. And then She gave me some glasses wiper thing, which I was really excited about because I am always looking for one of those. This really cute Pioneer Woman salt holder for like near your cooking stuff, which I have like used every single day. Love it. And then a sachet thing, and then some money to buy some more stuff, which with that I bought this face thing. I don't think it's near me. It's over there, but it's like does all the different lights.
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
because as an aging woman, you're like, how do I get rid of wrinkles? How do I get rid of this like double chin thing that's happening?
Rosacea, yeah.
And then I bought a wallet for the bag, and it's from Ratatouille. It's the Anyone Can Cook cookbook, so it's really cute. So not that you want all that, but and then like so we left for vacation the day after my birthday. We went to Door County with my husband's family, and that was nice. It felt like, you know, watching your kids just in a different location. It was very stressful and whatever, but it was very nice. We had perfect weather. We went to the farm in Door County, which is a great place to take your kids and even yourself if you enjoy animals. But we got attacked by little baby goats because they give you these bottles, and these goats, man, they will take you out. So we did that. Not for my birthday, but right around my birthday. So that's pretty much what we did.
Nice.
My husband bought me a new Amazon Fire Stick because I've been complaining about ours. So that was cool. So I gotta like move them all around so that there's a better one downstairs now, and then the ones that's downstairs is upstairs, and the other one, you know, whatever. Yeah. And then he got me this, which I haven't put up yet, but I'm really excited about it. It's this. You remember that game Simon Says?
Yeah.
Where you like press all the buttons. Okay. So this is like a big version of that, but it's for, and you wear boxing mitts, and you hook up your phone with your music, and then it follows the beat, so it lights up so like you punch where the beats are.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
That's cool.
I'm really excited.
Yeah.
I'm like really excited. I'll have to show you the first time I do it. Yeah, I just haven't decided like where I want to put it because I can't put it on a wall that has pictures on it. And I have to find a wall that's okay. I think I'm just gonna end up putting it on the door of my craft closet because it's like the only space. It's like far enough away from children, but like not on a wall that has anything hanging on it. So we'll see. But long story short, I didn't do much, but it was great.
Good. Bad.
Thank you for asking. Mm-hmm. Oh, Allie's here. Hello. Yes.
Please
You should. Okay, so let's get into it. As always, we rate our books before we talk about them because we don't want to forget about our ratings. So as far as you could tell as you're reading, a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being amazing, how would you rate this book?
I think I'm going to give this one a 3.5. This is my first time reading her. I liked this book, but because it's sort of oddly paced, that knocked it down a bit for me. So I liked it. I'll certainly read more by her. But subject matter was kind of difficult, like as we talked about a little bit too. Not the greatest. But the pacing was a little, I don't know. So I did like it, but and not a 4, not just like in the middle of the road, like 3.5 really, I think. So yeah. How about you?
Because I have read her before and I can compare it to other reads, I am around that 3.54. And I feel like it's probably I would pick maybe like a 3.75 because though I agree with you, like the pacing is weird and in some parts it's almost like you don't really want to finish it because you don't really get where she's going with a lot of it until you finish it and you re-examine all of the small parts made into one. You realize that it's actually pretty genius and very inventive. And me knowing her other work, I see her thought process a little bit.
Sure.
So if it's a first time read, yes, I think it's, but I also don't want to say like you have to read her other work in order to understand that. I'm not trying to say that, but for me, it clicked a little bit better because I'm like, okay, I understand why she's doing this because this is her style. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like every time I think about it, I go down and then I think about it some more and then I go back up. So I would say like 3.5 to 4 is where I'd sit on it. Yeah. Let us know in the comments what your ratings were. And if you're watching this in replay, let us know as well. We're always interested on how people feel about the book. Okay, so overall thoughts. What are your overall thoughts about the book?
It's not what I thought it was going to be about, quite honestly. So when this first came out, I think I was working at the library. So like it was a new book and I was shelving it a lot. It was coming in and out. So I had handled it quite a bit, and I thought it was going to be more about the roundhouse itself and like the people that go there and like the ceremonies that are held, and it'd be something to do with that, some kind of mystery or something with the community, but really focusing on the roundhouse, not this place that just happened to have a horrible thing happen at, and that's never discussed again. So that was really threw me off. I kept going, where is the roundhouse coming up? Like, hello, no, okay. I mean, so that kind of threw me. Knowing it was about rape also was surprising. But like you talked about before, it's not like it's lingered on, which I really appreciate, because especially with thrillers and mysteries too, that stuff can get so bogged down in details and rehashing, and then like the victim will remember something that happens, some like details. You have to relive part of it that you already know, plus the new gory, gross, horrible, horrifying stuff that happens over and over again. So like, ugh, this was okay. Yeah, I don't know. I liked this. Like I said before, the pacing was a little off. Like some stuff happens in the beginning, a bunch of not much, and then a whole crap load happens in the last like 10, 15 pages. And you go, I'm sorry, what? So I enjoyed it. I had a hard time getting into it and staying into it, but that's a me problem. I have read 3 books this month, I think. So it's just not a great month for me reading wise. But I did really appreciate all of the Native stuff in here, which obviously this is about Native Americans. It's set partly on the res, mostly on the res, with politics and everything else. And I really, really enjoyed that part. Obviously she is a member of, I don't know, is she Ojibwa?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. I figured since this was Ojibwa. So I really liked all of that, and I am looking forward to reading more of her stuff in the future for sure. But yeah, this is a really incoherent overall thought. I realize, I apologize. Yeah, I liked this.
She is a member of the Turtle Mountain Band of Chippewa.
Okay. Are Chippewa and Ojibwa the same?
I'm
trying to look over on my shelf. I have I just bought recently like a fat history of the Chippewa tribe. I think it's Chippewa. Anyways, I don't know. But yeah, I like that it's set, kind of Midwest, North Dakota. That was a nice area I never really read or hear about at all. I don't know. Again, incoherent, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Please make some sense. Save us.
I'm kind of going in the line that the thought process that you had too, like, so my expectations, right? Mm-hmm. So reading her before, she does a lot of generational writing. So she'll have characters that are in the now, but what they'll do is they'll reminisce, or they'll tell stories, or they'll have oral histories that they'll share about previous generations and how that really affects them in the here and now, or why they made choices, or why certain things happened, and that's why this person is the way they are today. So my expectation was that was how this book was going to be. And like you said, with the Roundhouse, I thought it was going to be a generational, like, history of the Roundhouse. Like, okay, it started here because of blah, 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 blah. And now, okay, here's today's person. Here we are. And instead, what we get is a very modern, almost, take on, like, atrocities happening on the reservation that are happening because these are minorities, and one step further, minority women, right? So this is a violence against minority women specifically, which is like a niche set of people that are being victimized even more so because they are minorities, right? And so way bigger than just sitting down, relaxing, and reading another, generational family story, right? But she still puts that in there. There is still generational stories. There are still oral history shared by, like, the grandfather or the great uncle, or I can't remember his name, Moonsham or something like that. And specifically in his story, he talks about Nana Push, which is a character that she repeats in her other books. So when she tells that story, I was finally like,
Hello? Is this me or is this everybody? I can't tell. Oh, hopefully she'll be back. Because I can't do anything. I'm not the host. Come on, Dani. Oh my God. There's a mosquito in my house. Wonderful.
I'm so sorry. I have no idea what happened. What was the last thing I said?
Nana Push was the last thing I heard.
Oh, okay. So Nana Push is a recurring character that she uses in a lot of her books. So when she tells that, or she has the character tell that story, for me, it was like, yes, finally something I know and I'm excited about because I've seen this character before and now I'm learning something more about them. That's what I love about her writing, is that because she has these common oral histories, you really, all of the books connect in some way, and I love that. So there, a piece of my expectation was there, surrounded by this very real and very disheartening situation, right? And we'll get into that with our discussion questions. But overall, definitely not what I was expecting. A topic I don't like reading about, but I think it was done with taste and it was done with care and respect, and I was okay with it. So I was okay with moving past my triggers and just being okay reading it. So overall, I thought it was a decent read. I definitely saw her in it, but I also saw something different, and that's okay. I think that's great. You can't be all of the same, right? So it looks like in my little freeze moment, we had a few comments from our lovely Allie that I don't want to miss. So let's talk about those first. So let's see. Similar rating, 3.5. well-written 3D characters and the discussion of bigger real-life issues skillfully integrated into the plot. Absolutely. I think that's a very succinct sentence of the book. That's a perfect review.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, here it comes. However, I felt the ending let the book down. I don't need complete resolution in books, but it was like, oh, I only have 10 pages of words left, and so here's everything has to happen now. We will get into that more in depth, but I do agree with you. I do agree that, like, all of a sudden, the shit just hit the fan, and, like, it was like, boom, 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 and it was like, and literally when I turned the last page, I was like, where's the rest of the book? Where did it go? What did someone rip it out? Like,
Yeah.
I had to reread the last sentence because I was like, even the last sentence, I was like, did it even finish the sentence? I'm so happy I was not listening to this in audio. And I know Jenna in our Voxer group had mentioned she had to go back and listen to it a couple of times because she as well was
I don't blame her.
What? Like, what? So yes, I totally agree with you. The Wendigo historical storytelling part lost me a bit. I totally understand it being there, but it felt like it was overly long. However, with the oral storytelling tradition, it is totally... Oh, yep, I was frozen. Okay, back to the second half. A totally valid choice. I'm just quite an impatient reader when the book has a plot. For plotless books that are beautifully written, I can go for days. So yes, I agree, but to kind of help her out, the author, always in her books, there's some kind of back oral history, native relevance that she has come in. I do, though, believe that this was not as well executed as they are in other books. If you were to continue, like, or if you were to read another book by this author, I would highly, highly, highly recommend The Last Report on the Miracles of Little No Horse. That book is insane and so good and filled with so much history, and it's very, very good. I would highly recommend that. I read that with a different book club, and it was a very good book. Let's see. Yes. Okay. Oh, hi. Jenna's here. Here she is.
Oh, hey, Jenna.
Hi, Jenna. Yes. Oh, Becca, hello. Nice to see you. Hi. It's going pretty good. We're talking about the Roundhouse. You gave it 4 stars because I love the characters, but felt that the plot felt a little dragged out. I love the political context, like when the father talked about his job and reservation laws versus U.S. laws. Yes, his whole, like, slamming the moldy casserole on the table and then building up the forks and knives and everything, I was like, perfect. That's exactly what you're describing. So yeah, absolutely. Let's see. I think maybe she was going to put something in there. Maybe, I don't know. We'll see. Oh, hi, Andy. I read a few years ago, loved the first chunk, but then it got slow, and I put it down for a long time. Eventually finished it. I think read it 3 or 4, 3 or 3.5. Yes. So you had mentioned this too, Laura. The middle part, you're like, had to skim read it because, like, what's happening? And I totally agree. It was kind of like, where is this going? And I think the point of that too was the fact that, like, this is all from the perspective of a 13-year-old boy who has no idea what's going on, and he's trying to get to the meat of it, and no one is really telling him because he's a 13-year-old boy, right? So that could maybe have something to do with it. I think it's also a little bit of like a coming of age.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's growing up forcibly almost. He's also understanding what it means to be a man. He's understanding what it means to be a Native man. He's understanding what it means to have violence put on you, grief, a lot of different things. So I think there's a lot of growing up he had to do in the middle there, and that it was a little bit long-winded and a little bit slow. So let's get into some of our questions here. Let's see here. My fan is not like giving up too much sound or anything.
I don't hear, but I also have my fan on, so I wouldn't know.
Well, let me know if the comments, if it's completely distracting. I don't know if I'm going to be able to turn it off because it is so hot here. But anywho, okay. So first question, and for those of you in the Voxer group, I did send out a little worksheet. So if that helped, I hope it did. But these are the questions right from that same worksheet. So the first question I have here is narrative style. How does Erdrich's narrative style affect your reading of the story? How does the perspective influence your understanding of the events?
You go first this time.
Okay. I was just looking back at the comments here. Yeah. I'm going to just sneak back in here because Allie got her comment in here. So a couple things she loved: how the father and son tried to reach their wife, mom, who was suddenly lost to them. Not the same circumstances, but I'm in a situation. I'm sure she's going to put on a second comment. So as she's doing that, I'm with her being at work, she's probably having moments where she's able to get in. So we'll come back to her second part of that comment. So the narrative style. So we kind of touch on this a little bit as I was talking about my overall thoughts. So what I love about her style in general is the oral histories that she interweaves into her everyday, this like now, here and now, and then here's this oral history from, back in the day. So specifically for this book, it refers to the story of Nanapush and his mother, the woman who could not be killed. And I felt like the first oral history you get, the first time he hears Moonshun, I think it's Moonshun is his name. I can't remember. I'm terrible with names. I'm like, yes, we're going to get this. And I thought it was beautiful and I loved it. And then it just felt very unnecessary because I didn't quite understand the relevance. Like it didn't feel like it meant anything, but I think for me, maybe I wasn't connecting the dots. I'm assuming it was supposed to be something about the relationship between a son and a mother and how they are codependent on each other as far as, a mother takes care of their children, puts them in the right direction, yada, yada. But also the son then, as he grows, is to take care of his people. Like it was very confusing. So the narrative style as a whole for me felt very like a contemporary novel with like weird interjections of the past.
That makes sense to me too.
Instead of a solid interweaving of history, if that makes any sense. Yeah. And I don't know if it's because I have read so much of her work that this one comparatively is just not as strong in that area, or if I'm just not interpreting it properly. And that could very well be. I might just be off my game, which
I don't
is very possible.
Does your book have an afterword?
Yes.
Okay, because I think she was being treated for breast cancer when she was writing this.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's probably why, because she had it sounds like different readers, and like things were slightly different in her life, as like the editing process and stuff. maybe that's partly why this feels so different, just because she was going through treatment and she was in a different spot, you know?
Could be.
Yeah.
Yeah. So back to the question as far as like if that like influenced my understanding of the events, not so much. It was I feel like it was just more of a distraction from what was happening. But other than that, I felt like usually when I read kids, I feel like they're very unreliable. They're unreliable narrators. But in this, I did not feel that at all. Like I felt very much this was like all that was happening, and he wasn't. I felt like he was a very trustworthy, very honest character because he was so invested in finding out what happened and putting a stop to it in order to get his before mom back. You know, he kept referring to before, my before mom. So I felt like it was a very honest portrayal. Yeah, there's so much that happened. Like for such a short book, I mean, it's just 300 pages, really. There's so much to unpack. I mean, there's the church, there's the government officials, there's the political side, there's the fact that his father is a judge, there's the friends that he has, there's Sonia, who, I mean, that's a whole other thing. The money, the actual violence that happens, the deaths, the Linda. I mean, there's so many things that are just all ongoing. I don't know. I don't think that I don't know that there is another style that would have worked for this.
Yeah.
I don't know, because there just is so much. I feel like that was a lot of nothing coming out of my mouth, but that's how I feel.
Well, that's me all over the time, always.
Did you have anything to add in that area?
Not totally, because again, this is my first time reading her, so I don't know what she's like. And then when I did read that afterward, when she had breast cancer and everything, I thought maybe this is why this is not what I thought it was, and this feels like the vibe I get from it, the vibe I get from her books, it didn't match up with the writing style, which, as you're saying now, is not quite the same as her other stuff seems to be. So that makes sense to me too. I feel a little better, like, okay, I wasn't totally off in reading this, but I don't know. I'm surprised that our main narrator was 13, a 13-year-old boy. I was surprised by it at first, but liked that it was a boy instead of a girl, because I think that's something you see more often, at least in the stuff that I read, is like mother and daughter versus mother and son stuff. So I liked that dynamic. I liked that it was set in the late 80s, so technology wasn't a thing. Not that technology is necessarily a big thing on the res as it is, but something that I was interested by and sort of surprised by is that in all of the like television shows and like powwows I have been to, and the Native Americans I know in real life, and like everything is like there's this through line for everything, and it is really realistic. Like my cousin is married to a Native American person. She's deceased now, but they live close to the res because he didn't want to live too far away. But he said, it's a res life is no one can do too good. Everyone's got to stay together. So all the crabs are in this bucket. Maybe some of you have this like analogy for other stuff too, but if there's a bucket of crabs and the bucket is a reservation and all the people inside are the crabs, if one crab does really well and gets to get out, all the other crabs will pull him right back down again. So they're all equal and they're all together. And I thought, that doesn't make any sense. I don't get it, but I understand it more now. The more I hear about this and the more like it's even, and like they stay together and they back each other, rightfully so. Pick a reason, like white people have done real bad stuff and continue to do real bad stuff to Native Americans for all sorts of reasons. None of them really good. But I really appreciate that it was a lot of stuff, like hearing about the Wendigo. I'm like, oh yeah, Wendigo, like all this stuff. It's familiar in a lot of ways, even though this is a brand new story with a brand new author in a brand new world that I'm unfamiliar with. So I really appreciated that. It felt really real, and obviously it is this like Native American tie of all this random knowledge I have throughout my life, because my parents were very into Native Americans and learning about different tribes and customs and myths and belief systems and all this stuff. So I was raised learning about all this stuff. It feels very comforting to me, and it makes a lot of sense to me. So it was nice to have all that stuff in this book that I didn't expect to have necessarily in a semi-modern story told by a boy. It's surprising, and I did enjoy it. It's making me want to give it a higher rating now that I'm thinking about this. But yeah, I did really enjoy this. I just wish that the pacing was a little better. I have to say I was nervous when Joe does go to the roundhouse on his own, and he and his friends are investigating, and he finds the gasoline can and all that stuff. I started to get really like, oh God, are they going to really, really, really focus on this? And this will be what we hear about for the entire 122 pages or whatever are left. It's just more details of this, and it'll be like a traditional thriller mystery where it's so involved in this. And I'm so glad that it wasn't. And it was about him being sort of a ding-dong 13-year-old, living his life with his friends and drinking and girl, whatever. It's still in the background. Of course, it still matters. It's a really big thing. There's a before and after for bad stuff like that. So I appreciated the balance of that a little bit too, so it wasn't so bogged down. Yeah, more rambling.
Yeah, and I think we do have to remember too, not only is it narrated by a 13-year-old boy, but it's actually narrated by the memories of a 13-year-old boy.
True.
Because if you recall, there are a few interjections where he's like, oh yeah, and I married that girl, blah, blah, blah. And and when I was doing law school, I wore my dad's ties. So It's actually the older man who we don't know an age, but it's his memories narrating this book in real time, right? Because every time that happened, and I like that was there. That's kind of part of the narrative style, because for me, it gives me calm, and it gives me okay, I know that everything's going to be okay with him,
right?
Because clearly he's gotten out of it as far alive is what I mean. He got out of it alive, and he had a life, or has a life, right? Because we know that not a lot of people got out of it.
Yeah.
And we'll get to that in a little bit. So if you're watching this and you have not read this book, there are going to be a lot of spoilers. Let's jump back into the comments real quick. Allie finished a few thoughts here. So back to the original thought, we have how the father and son tried to get the mom. And then you mentioned the same situation where mom that I knew is gradually becoming lost to me. So sorry. And can see myself and my dad trying to find ways to find through flowers, food, etc. Felt very authentic. Let's see here. The complicated feelings of the son upon finding out that his father, who he had looked up to, was presiding over what he felt were trivial cases. Yep, similar to when you first realize your parents are just people, not superhuman. No, you're completely fine. You're completely fine. Enjoyed the son as narrator again. Felt pretty authentic though. Position of me out British white person again. Yep, we're here. Same boat.
Yeah.
Not sure I missed something, but did you guys think of the focus of the scary priest religion commentary on clashing cultures? So with almost all of her books, there is a conflict, or there is a presence of Catholics trying to convert, or successfully converting. If you pick up the book I mentioned, the Last Report of Miracles, the main character in that is a Catholic priest. So it's a recurring theme. And it is clashing cultures because it's the epitome of one of the main issues with Native American culture is that you have all these outside sources saying, you need to stop doing that. You need to start doing what we do because what we do is better, or what we do is what you're supposed to do. And that's how so much of Native American culture died and disappeared. And, because so much of their culture is oral, it's expressive, it's part of you. It's not just put it down in a book and reverse it and sit in your chairs and sing about it once a week. And no, it's their life, it's their lifeblood. And to completely drown that in your Christian beliefs, and I'm not saying anything about Christians and Christians' beliefs. I grew up a Catholic. I'm not saying anything against that, but you keep yours and they keep theirs. There's no reason why in the world we cannot believe in our beliefs and be happy for one another for having those beliefs and living our own cultures. So that is very much a running theme. In this book, I didn't feel like it was very oppressive. It was there, and it was a vehicle of which the main character was trying to get his information. So I don't know that I felt like it was oppressive in this book. I've seen more of that in other books, and other authors that write about Native American culture. So I don't know. The scary priest, though, the images were vivid. I mean, I feel like he did that on purpose. Like, I don't feel like they accidentally saw him naked. I think he did that on purpose. I feel like he knew they were there since they were peeping on the movie, because like they said, he even turned it up so that they could hear it. Like, I feel like he did that on purpose. So he knew that they were peeping. But that was wow. And then when he grabbed them and threw them in the house and was calling them all sorts of names, I'm like, what kind of priest is this? But anywho, back to our questions here. I think a little bit more about what we were talking about kind of bleeds into this question, but family, friendship, loyalty. So kind of discussing the relationships between Joe, who was our main character we've been talking about. I know we're bad with talking about names, but Joe is the 13-year-old boy we've been discussing, and his family and friends. How do these relationships influence the decisions he makes? So first, if you're unfamiliar, what's that?
Loyalty is everything. I mean,
yeah. Oh, with everyone here. I mean, even when we learn about who's related to who, I feel like I'm just forgetting his name, but the great uncle, the one who tells all of the stories, Musham, yeah. He even says, oh, well, he's your cousin, but he's your quarter cousin, so you would defend him, but you wouldn't, whatever he was saying. I was like, okay, that makes sense, I guess. So they were kind of explaining how, if you're just friends with them, you don't have to eat, you don't have to break your bread with them, basically. But all comes down to that loyalty, right? But specifically with kind of discussing his friends and family. So his family being his parental units, his father and his mother, who we learn are quite a bit older. He was kind of a miracle baby, so they're a little bit older than the rest of the friends' parents. And then there's him. So it's just the three of them. So pretty close knit. They just have each other. So that's why we see this very strong connection with him and his mother, and then with him and his father, so to speak, as we watch them kind of unfold. And then he has a little band of friends, Cappy, Zach, and Is it Albert or I'm
remember.
terrible with names. I think something with a name. Albus. No, that's Harry Potter.
Angus.
Angus. There we go.
Zach. Yeah.
And they're like this really close, and especially he and Cappy, they're best friends.
Yeah.
And they do everything together. And like you mentioned before, stupid stuff like drinking and smoking and all the things that you do because there are not televisions and PlayStations invented yet, right? I was really thrown off by all of that, especially like in my head. So when he goes to the roundhouse and he invites all of his friends, my first thought is like, you are destroying evidence. Like, what are you doing? Like, and he even says that, like, this is evidence, we should tell to the police. And they're like, well, we can just have one can. And at first, I was like, oh my gosh, this is evidence. Like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? And then I was like, 13-year-old boys.
Right.
13-year-old boys. They don't know. Law and Order isn't on TV yet. They don't know all these things. Like, they just don't know. They just don't know. And it's like, it's beer. Ooh, like, how often do you come across a, case of hams? So I get it. But there were so many moments where I just wanted to, like, chuck those boys in the lake. I was so irritated. And when they're talking about all the ticks, and they're like, we have to go in the lake, get these ticks off or whatever, all I kept thinking was the scene in Stand By Me where they're all on the river and then the leeches. Have you seen that movie?
No.
Oh, well, okay. So they're all in the river and they're like, they get leeches all over them. And oh my gosh. One ends up on someone's.
Yeah, downstairs.
Yeah. So anywho, those boys. So I feel like she did a good job of describing how boys are because they were so dumb. They were so dumb. And then when Cappy goes in for confession.
Oh, yeah.
And the priest chases them all over town. I'm thinking, okay, I get why you're mad, but, like, that's not how confession works.
Right.
Like, I'm pretty sure you're just supposed to listen and then give him his, like, Hail Marys and our whatever and move on your way. Like,
right.
That's like, that's how confession works, unfortunately. Like, so I thought that was pretty funny. But I felt like the relationships with his parents were so authentic too, because, like, he has a close relationship, but at the same time, it was so distant because of the tragedy. Like, because of what happened, everyone, like, started to block themselves off, like, and especially the mother. And I just felt so bad for her. I mean, obviously for the violence, but, like, absolutely no, like, support at all. And I don't mean from her husband and her son. Like, obviously they were there, but, like, no therapy. Like, where is a therapist? Where is a support group? Where is anything? And I know, like, even today there are women who this happens and there's no one, because either the resources aren't there or they have no one to guide them in that direction. I mean, obviously you can lead a horse to water, you can't make it drink. But in this sense, I felt like everyone just thought, like, oh, just give her time or just let her rest. And it's like, no, take her to a hospital. Like, she needs to be seen. Like, someone needs to, like, talk to her, and it needs to be happening, like, for as long and forever as it takes, and I think that was a really good description of, this is a minority woman on a reservation where there are no resources. This is what happens. And as a reader, it makes you think, and it makes you reframe your thought when you think about white privilege, when you think about how minority women, like, on top of being a woman, because, being a woman, you're already a second-class citizen. and then being a minority woman. Like we have to keep these things on top of mind when we, make, uh, amendments, and we make rules and regulations. We have to think about the people that are getting forgotten. We have to think about the people that aren't being thought about. And I think that this book does an excellent job of pointing that out, because it also has the fact that the husband's a judge. And even he says, look at this casserole. I can't do anything about it. I can't do anything about it. And how his hands are so tied, and it's his own wife who has this happen to her. And there's nothing he can do about it, because one, she can't even say what part of the land that it happened on,
Right.
because that was the pinnacle. That was, oh, well, if you don't know, then because if it's happened on reservation land, well, then you can't try this person because they're white. What? Are you serious? And it's a real thing. It is a real law. I mean, you hear about this all the time, how certain states have laws that were like made when they were formed that are ridiculous, that are absolutely ridiculous, but there are still laws that can be enforced today.
Yeah,
and that's one of these things. It's one of these things. And so I think it's really important. I think that that's one of the things that she does such a great job of in her books, is she like points these things out, and like, but what are we going to do about it? We got to keep asking these questions. We got to keep pointing, the light in the directions of people who don't have the voice themselves, who have been neglected. I mean, yeah. I think in the afterword, I read a little bit.
Yeah.
It's like 1 in 3 Native women will be raped in their lifetime.
Right. And that's the reported rapes, not the actual.
Reported, yeah. I mean, yeah. Anywho, I'm getting off on a tangent here. This is why I don't like reading about this kind of stuff, because it's infuriating. It's infuriating. I'm sorry, I'm missing comments here. I apologize. I'm going to try to find where we left off here. I am not sure which part you are referring to. I apologize. But yes, frustrating, totally realistic. Oh, probably the 13-year-old boy part. Yeah. Not to blame it on the times, but with the setting being in the 80s, it felt like the realistic representation of Joe's family reacted to tragedy. Yeah, I think just lack of information, lack of resources, lack of support. I mean, there was that police officer, and I think maybe he was an FBI, but like, it felt like his hands were tied. Like, he seemed like a nice guy, but like, couldn't really do much of anything for anyone. And by the end of the book, you kind of see, kind of to your crab analogy almost, is like they just took care of themselves, because that's all they can do. Because what else are you going to do? Right. So when we get to our question and we talk about justice and is justice served, think about that. Think about how justice was served and why it was served that way. Because I think a lot of what we just talked about is exactly why it was served that way. I wasn't born until 1990. Oh, well, I remember where I was in 1990. Do you, Laura?
Yes, I do. I was starting 7th grade, middle school. Hi, I'm old.
One of my brothers was being born. Anywho, I remember the 2000s. Well, good for you. Me too. I graduated high school. Anywho, made therapy or mental health seem like it was for crazy people. Yeah, no, I agree with you. Like, I don't think that was just in the 2000s. I think we've had an awakening of mental health, especially in the last several years. But I mean, mental health has been an issue and and a thing for a very long time. I mean, I'm reading a book from the Civil War times, and that's putting women in asylums because they're mad. Because, I mean, men, especially, have been putting women in asylums since burning witch.
There were
Burning witches at the stake. You know, I mean, it's been always, you know, women especially have always had the madness, the hysteria. You know, there's been asylums for as long as there's been Earth. There's been asylums. Even in the story of Nana Push, they were trying to kill the mother because she had the madness or something. Because she was trying. I can't remember exactly the details now, but it was something she was doing, and they're like, "Oh, she's crazy. We got to kill her." And then they couldn't. So then she was even more crazy. Which, whatever. It's fascinating to read about madness in women, because it's very rarely, or it's the opposite side of that spectrum, when there is a mental health illness, but it's completely neglected and completely disregarded because, oh, you just need to smile more, you just need to get over it, you know, like postpartum depression and, you know, things like that. Oh, you just need fresh air, or it'll pass, you know. So I don't know, it's a whole other topic we could talk days about.
But it's also, to your point, Jenna, like the 90s and early 2000s, like the first 5 years especially, like that was such a shitty time. Sorry for swearing, but like diet culture and like how women were treated, and like, I mean, the fashion was ridiculous, but I mean, there's so much crap and horrible, like unbelievable, looking back, unbelievable stuff that was commonplace and just like in the media, and like how women were treated in interviews and stuff. It was just normal, because it was normal then. But you look back and you're like, oh my God, that was so horrible. Mm-hmm. It was such a crappy time. Mm-hmm. I mean, fun music. It's not my favorite music, but like really in general, a really, really tough time. So, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What struck me was Joe's immediate family situation was both the truth and the silence around the rape, the mom withdrawals, and at the same time the dad involves Joe in going through the old cases. Yeah, and I found that was weird because like he'd involve him, but then he wouldn't tell him anything, but then because he involved him, he had to tell him things, and so it was very like, it was hard, and it almost, so it reminds me very much of like when families go through divorce. A lot of the times, from my experience and others that I've heard, the parent, and it could be a dad with a daughter, or a dad with a son, or a mom with a daughter, it doesn't matter, the coupling. But sometimes they like take on a child as like a friend almost, to like bitch about the other parent. Mm-hmm. Or like, oh, you'll never believe, like, this is what they did. And it's like, why is that? Why are you doing that? Don't do that. So what they try to do is they try to vilify the other side. But then they're like, oh yeah, but like, I'm not really supposed to say any of this. So then it's like a tennis match. It's like going back and forth, like, oh, are you going to tell me about stuff that's happening, or are you not going to tell me about stuff that's happening? I don't understand. So I felt like that was very much like this. So he was like treating Joe like he was an adult, and like, oh, let's do this together because this is about your mom, my wife, this is our family. But then at the same time, like, oh yeah, you're a kid, so like, I don't know if I should tell you this, or you know, go play, you know. So I think it was very confusing for Joe, and I think you could see that by his actions. Mm-hmm. Because I feel like even to the end, I was like, he's just a confused boy, and his actions are all emotion based. His actions are all driven by his hatred for this person. And if he was a rational adult with more time to think about things, I don't think what happened would have happened. Right. I think because he was a 13-year-old boy running on adrenaline and hormones and hate, that's why it happened. Mm-hmm. So, let's see here. Whoa. I don't know what this is about, but we're going to go ahead and... Sorry, there's a little bit of spam in here. Okay.
Fabulous.
Yeah, that's the first time I think that's ever happened. So if anyone ever sees that, go ahead and just delete it. Okay. Yes. Yep. It's the only relatively recent that authorities start taking sexual assault and domestic violence somewhat serious in legal context. Yeah.
Which, thank God, it's way overdue, obviously.
Yeah, but still a long way to go.
But,
absolutely.
It's something,
That's awesome.
We're fellow olds. It's okay.
Totally off topic, but I scroll sometimes when I'm really bored or need to relax, and there's a bunch of people that are laughing about the fact that like kids who are doing like reports and everything right now are like referring to like the 90s as the late 1900s.
Yeah.
Like our childhood and early adolescence and adulthood is referred to now as the late 1900s.
I know.
What the actual duck? Like, oh my gosh. The late 1900s. And then I saw another one where a guy got carded and the person immediately gave it back, and it was like a kid or whatever. And he's like, "Oh, didn't you want to look?" "Oh no, I saw one." He's like, "What do you mean you saw one?" He's like, "Well, anything, because you have a one." It's like
right.
late 1900s. I still laugh when you are asked your birth date and then you say it and they're like 19, and I'm like, yeah, what else would it be? Like, right. Yes, 19.
Like, I'm not 24, so
yeah. So anywho, let's see. Everyone making me feel young. Oh, it's okay. I know you teach college. I wish I taught college. I just, stay home with 2 babies all day. Nice. You're welcome. Very funny. Okay, time to move on here. I really feel like we've been talking about this throughout, so we can kind of breeze through this one. But the portrayal of Native American culture and the legal issues, what impact does it have, cultural and legal aspects? Like I said, we've been really hitting that pretty hard in all of the commentary. I think overall, like I said before, I think she does an exceptional job of showing the reader like, this is it. This is the legal stance that this victim has, which is nothing really. And especially when they catch the person, he has been identified, he has been confirmed, it has been said that he not only did this to her, but there is a young girl and child in this situation, and he goes golfing. Because we don't know what part of the reservation they did it on. So, because we don't know where his feet were when he committed a crime, it's untriable. So he walks free. I just can't even, and it's a real thing. It is a real thing.
It just makes me so angry. Because it is real. Oh my God.
And I think the character even says, like, what does it matter? I'm going to get away with it. He says it while he, like, when she remembers, like she said very distinctly, he was like, I'm going to get away with it. I'm a white man. I'm going to get away with it. No one cares. It's deplorable. It's disgusting. And it's real life. It's just, yeah. Anywho. So we've kind of discussed it several times. So I think we'll kind of move into our final question. We've already hit an hour and 10 minutes, so I apologize if anyone was looking for just the hour, but I do appreciate you being here for the rest of it. Our last question here is the resolution and ending. What did you think about the ending of the novel? Do you think justice was served? And how do you feel about the resolution of the various plot threads? So let's kind of like break this down. Mm-hmm. So what did you think about the end of the novel?
Too fast. I mean, really, it just is like 4 paragraphs. Like he's in the car and then his parents are at the hospital picking him up. And like, you're like, oh, I'm sorry, what now? And then, like you said, it just ends and you go, oh, this is the last? Okay.
Yeah.
Sure can. Yeah, way too sudden.
Yeah. So, spoiler alert. So if you haven't read the book, don't listen, because it's here it all comes. Mm-hmm. So our main character devises a plan that he is going to kill the rapist. Mm-hmm. And then he does.
Yep.
So none of this like think he's gonna do it, and then he figures out by the end like, no, he's just gotta let the justice system do their work, yada yada. No, he literally does it. But because he's such a terrible shot, his friend puts in a final shot that is like the kill shot, right? So now they're in it together. And of course, thereafter, it's like total like hits them and they can't believe they did it, but they did it. And like, how are they going to get away with it? And basically, there are several people that know they did it, but it cannot be proven.
Right.
Because just like the previous attack, what does it matter?
Right.
Happened on the reservation or whatever it was, and where's the weapon, and there was no trail, and because it rained, and so like, are they going to look that hard into it? And plus, we know what this guy did, so like, what does it matter? You know, like, so again, is justice served? Now, my initial reaction was no. We can't live in a world where we have these vigilantes just pushing out justice whenever. Like, you can't do that. And the back of my head was like, serves him right, the bastard. Like, he got what he deserved. But again, justice does not work that way. You can't just go around killing people because of what they, like, you can't, oh my goodness. But it is what it is, right? Mm-hmm. Was justice served? I don't know, because now, like you said, now he has to live the rest of his life with nightmares of what he did. And then come to find out, if he had just said or helped find the body of the young girl that we know is dead, he would have served his life in prison, because that would have been evidence. That would have had evidence. But because he did what he did, now he can't even tell them that this poor girl is getting cemented over. Mm-hmm. And that, to me, where is the justice there? Where is the justice for that poor girl? Where is the justice for her baby that's now going to her molester? Because you know that didn't go down proper. Right. You know that wasn't no love affair. Mm-hmm. So she was preyed upon as a young Native woman. We just lost Laura. And then then she falls pregnant, has a child, and then is preyed on again by this other guy. I mean, where is the justice for these women? This girl, this baby. Where's the justice? There is none. There's none. And to say, okay, so for the mom who was victimized in the beginning, there's justice because her perpetrator is dead. That's not justice. That's closure, maybe, but not really, because she has to live the rest of her life.
Right.
Seeing that, feeling that, and not really getting any help with that. She just moves on, I guess. And we see that she starts to kind of do the things she did before, but I mean, do you move past that? Is it just a distant memory? I mean, if you're a victim, maybe you know more. But justice, I don't think justice was served in any respect. And I'm not talking about Lyndon Lark. Lyndon Lark can suck it. I don't care about that individual. But justice was not served for any other woman in this situation. Not at all. Not at all. The one I feel the most sorry for is the young woman, the young lady that started the whole mess, really. Just trying to get out of it and trying to have a better life, work as an intern in the political world.
You think you're doing a good thing, and I'm doing this new job, gonna get me out of here,
and was a victim.
Yep.
By a person of power. And I really hope that as a reader, that is something that people took from this. Like, that was the true victim, that poor girl and her baby. Because now that baby's going to grow up in the victimizer's home. And it was told that he is like a deplorable person, like says terrible things about the Native community and like makes all these like laws and regulations to like entrap them and not do anything good for them. And now he's going to adopt this Native child because that's what they said, that he's trying to like do a political move, but he knows that it's actually his. So now he's going to belittle and make sure that child feels marginalized because they know that they are in their head. They know that they are, not that they are. But because now they have someone they can victimize in their own home. Like, it's just justice? No. There's no justice in this book. None at all. I think that's what was most upsetting, is that, like, because, like, in books, too, like, you want the characters to, like, rise up and, like, do what's best. And I really thought he was going to be like, oh, my gosh, that's where she is. We have to go get her, like her family deserves her body, like, nope. Because it would incriminate him, I guess. And I didn't really understand how, like, because
I didn't either.
I didn't understand why that would make a difference. Like, all you have to say is the drunk guy said he saw something.
Right. So go look.
Yeah. Like, I was very disappointed with that. But again, it serves her point. It serves her point of the book. And I think that is the point. There's no justice. Where is the justice? There isn't any. And that's what needs to change. So yeah, and then so to your ending, so the actual ending of the book, the actual last pages, because all that happens, like the death and them getting away with it, and them
it's the last chapter.
Yeah, they're trying to like move past it and not so much get away with it, but like move on from it, because that's, I mean, I've never killed anybody, but I imagine it does not feel good on your soul. But Cappy, who we mentioned before, who is Joe's best friend, had this girl he was in love with that was there for a summer retreat. Reason why the priest was chasing him, because he did the naughty in the basement. She gets found out by her parents, and they basically, stop talking to our daughter. So they decide they're going to get an old car and drive to where she lives, which is far away enough.
Like Montana.
They're 13-year-old boys. Right. They're 13-year-old boys driving this vehicle. And the ending is basically like there's an accident and Cappy dies. But Joe was in the back seat and put the seatbelt on because the seatbelt was like grinding into his hip. So he put it on. But if you're like, it was very confusing. And then the other two boys too survived. But it was even kind of confusing, like, so Cappy died? Because the line literally is just like, he went somewhere else to get prepared. And then I was like, okay, so it must mean like he went to the morgue.
Right.
And so like, for me, and then it just ends. Then it just ends. Like his parents come and pick him up. and he doesn't have shoes on. That's how it ends.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I was like, what was the purpose of that? Why? You could have ended it like back when they were done talking about what happened. You didn't have to add this extra like excursion. But I think what this excursion showed, why she did put it in there, is because of the Wendigo, the ghost, your soul leaving your body, your memory coming back to you. Of these are the consequences. You took someone's life in your own hands. You changed someone's destiny. And your ghost, your memory, this haunting is trying to tell you that. And this is it coming to fruition. These are the consequences you have when you mess with fate, I think, is what the message was. But again, for me as a reader, I was like, there's no purpose of that. You're going to kill a 13-year-old boy now because why? Isn't there enough death and destruction? And now we have these boys drinking and driving all night, probably fell asleep at the wheel.
Mm-hmm.
And done. And on his way to a girl he loved. So he was headed towards love. And he ends up killing himself.
Mm-hmm.
I was not happy with the ending.
Yeah.
Not happy. I also, like, this is totally sidetracked, but it just popped in my head. I also did not like the Sonia storyline.
No, that was so bizarre. I thought, okay.
And how that ended. Like, so it's like this whole thing, and then she's coming back anyways.
Right. What's the...
Yeah, I did not like the ending. I did not like it. Did not like it at all. But I feel like she's telling a story. She is drawing attention to. And I feel like it was authentic. I feel like it got you thinking. It you're going to think about this book a lot. It's going to be something that you come back to. It's going to be something that you know.
Mm-hmm.
We're going back to feeling really old. The Olympics, everyone is way younger than me and outstanding ethics born in the 21st century. Yeah.
I know.
Okay.
Enjoy your day at work, Allie. Thanks.
Probably not see this, but thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so yeah, I did not like the ending. I did not like the ending at all.
I know, it really felt like she had a deadline and she was like wanted to change something, and it was like, okay, I'm gonna write these like 4 or 5 paragraphs and then just print. Like, you know, like you said, like, yeah, there's a point to it, and yes, it's abrupt for a reason and all these things, but like, also, seriously,
Yeah,
you couldn't have taken another page to like put a little more into it, just to like flesh some things out a little bit more, so that last like little page break there and that last little part after the accident, you couldn't just put a little bit more.
And I thought too, sorry, I gotta move my leg here. I thought at some point she was gonna come to him when he was an adult because of all those little
that would have been
interjections. Mm-hmm. Like that he would have said something like, you know, as I grew up, I
that
left
summer, blah, blah,
and
blah.
I came back, and you know, I got myself this, and you know, I always thought back to my days on the reservation, and you know what Cappy and I, you know, I thought that's how it would end.
Right.
But no, so this guy just lives with the fact that he killed somebody and that his friend died and that he like, what? It was all very convoluted. I was very surprised. It was not like anything I've read from her. I can tell you that. But yeah. So as we've gonna continue this, like any additional topics or anything that you want to talk about? I know we mentioned Sonia. That was so freaking weird. Like,
yeah.
at first she's like all gung-ho about giving him money, like making sure he gets the money, and like hides the money and has it for later, and then ends up just taking all the money from him anyways. And like,
but she's coming back, so
yeah, I mean, I guess you can't trust anybody. And I think it was very poetic too that she was a white woman that like did all this too, like, so she was also like almost it felt like victimizing him, because like she stole basically from him, because like he found it, right? So finders keepers. But then at the same time too, we have that moment where she describes her whole life, like how her mother was basically a prostitute, and then she was a stripper, and she wanted a better life for her daughter, but like she ended up with Whitey, I think his name. I'm so bad, like I can't remember anyone's name. And he won't even marry her, like, so like she's still in a terrible situation. And I was like, so when she was going through that, I started to like feel for her, and then all of a sudden I was like, you need to calm down.
Right.
Like,
you're a grown woman. I mean, like,
you have horses and dogs, and you like, I'm pretty sure like, even though you're not married, like you seem to have a pretty fine life, considering the people around you have worse off than you. And then she steals all that money. Like, what the hell? Like,
I know.
And then she comes back. Oh, and it's gonna be different. Why? Because you have some extra change. Like,
I know. I read that, and I just chuckled out loud. I was like, okay, sure. Right.
Yeah, I was just like, you're just as bad as everyone else. Like, that's literally how I felt about her after. I was like, you're just as bad as everyone else. Like, I don't feel anything for you. You're just as bad as everyone else. And that Linda Lark, oh my gosh, she was cracking me up. Every time you do like the banana bread thing, I was like, oh my gosh, this is cracking me up, because I make a lot of banana bread. And now I'm like, every time I make banana bread, I'm thinking about this woman. But what a book. There's like so many things that you could really carve into, and I know we really glazed over a lot of it, but overall I think what this book is trying to do is it's trying to be impactful. It's trying to get you thinking. It's trying to make you ask questions, because people are being overlooked. Women are being overlooked. Minority women are being overlooked today. This happened in the 80s. It's still happening today. It's still happening today. Got to be asking the questions. You got to be voting for the right people. You got to be making sure your law people, your politicians are going in the right direction.
Right.
And thinking about everyone, not just the people that look like them.
Or just themselves.
Yeah. Oh, well, I think that's that. I don't think I have anything else. I feel like I talked in a lot of circles, and I apologize for anyone out there that you're like, Dani, you just talk way too much. You just ramble. But if you're looking for any other books by this author, like I said, I highly, highly recommend The Last Report on the Miracles at Little Millhorse. And another one that's pretty good is Love Medicine. And Tracks, which is a pretty short one. That one's pretty good too. But yeah.
Oh, she has poetry too. I didn't know that.
Yep. And then she also does children's books. I think the one that I read, it was called The Birch Bark House or something like that. Yeah. That one is very good. That one is very good. I highly recommend that for your middle grade readers. Very, very.
I love kids' books.
I only read the first one, but I very much liked it. I may try to find the next one. But very, very good.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the next time you will see us will be next week, which is August 6th. We will have new products at 8, and then we'll start reading sprints at 8:30. The read for August is actually a short story, which is nice, something to end the summer with very short, very easy. And that's The Summer People by Shirley Jackson. So most of us will probably read and finish it within those reading sprints, but we will try to keep our discussion to the end of the month, which will be the 27th. So if you want to rejoin us in our next live discussion of our reading, that'll be on the 27th of August. Other than that, that is it for our discussion this evening. Yeah. Thank you very much I know this was a little bit longer than our usual one, but there was a lot to unpack. There's much more. So if you have any additional comments, feel free to leave that below for us, and we'll definitely check in and chat back. So, okay. Well, I hope you all have a great evening, and we'll see you all next week.
Yeah, thanks everyone.
Bye.